stadiums are still there. Crumbling concrete in Athens, rusting bleachers baking in Rio's sun, a velodrome in Montreal that nobody uses. These are not ancient ruins. They were built with public money, on purpose, for the world to watch. And then the world left. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The Olympics is the greatest financial trap ever sold to a city. Every 4 years, a new group of mayors and politicians line up, checkbooks open, desperate to host a 2-week party they cannot afford, and every single time, the bill is catastrophic. While the host city bleeds debt for decades, one organization walks away richer. Every single cycle. That organization is the International Olympic Committee. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on how the Olympic hosting trap actually works. We are going to break down why every Olympics since 1960 has gone over budget, how the International Olympic Committee extracts billions while paying for nothing, and why the cities that said no, Hamburg, Boston, Budapest, quietly dodged one of the most expensive mistakes a city can make. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to 1976. Picture Montreal. The city had just hosted the Summer Olympics. Mayor Jean Drapeau, flush with civic pride, told residents before the games that the Olympics can no more have a deficit than a man can have a baby. The quote aged like milk. The final bill for the 1976 Montreal Olympics was $1.5 billion. That was 6 times the original budget. The Olympic Stadium alone, a concrete masterpiece locals nicknamed the Big O, cost so much to build and repair that Montreal was still paying off the debt in 2006. 30 years passed. The debt was finally cleared 3 decades after the torch went out. And Montreal was not an anomaly. It was the blueprint. Here is how the system actually works. The IOC does not pay to host the Olympics. The host city does. Every dollar of infrastructure, security, venue construction, athlete housing, and operational cost falls on the local government. And that bill, historically, has been enormous. But here's the catch. The revenue? The IOC keeps almost all of it. Television rights for the Olympics generate roughly $4 billion per 4-year cycle. The IOC keeps the lion's share of that, approximately 73 cents of every dollar, distributed to itself and the international sports federations. The host city receives a small cut, somewhere around $1.5 billion in direct support, but that money is dwarfed by what they actually spend. In industry terms, this is called a host city contract, and it is one of the most lopsided agreements in modern finance. The host city agrees to cover all construction costs, provide free land for Olympic venues, exempt IOC revenues from local taxes, offer visa-free entry for thousands of officials, and waive local labor protections. The IOC signs the contract and boards a first-class flight. Think about that from a business perspective. In a normal deal, if you build the factory, you get to keep the profits. In the Olympic model, you build the factory, you staff it, you insure it, and then you hand the revenue to the organization that told you to build it in the first place. So how do cities keep falling for this? Easy. They sell it as identity. There is a psychological phenomenon called construal level theory. Basically, when something is far away in time, a decade-long Olympic bid process, our brains see the upside in vivid color and blur the costs into abstraction. The opening ceremony is cinematic. The construction bill is a spreadsheet nobody reads until it is too late. The IOC weaponizes this brilliantly. The bid process is designed as a competition. Cities race against each other, each one upping their promises to outbid the last. The IOC calls it the candidate city process. Economists call it an auction where the winner loses. You win the right to spend money you do not have on infrastructure you do not need, to impress tourists who will not come. And the tourism boost? Almost entirely a myth. Studies from the University of Oxford Said Business School, which analyzed every Summer Olympics from 1964 to 2016, found that regular tourists actually avoid host cities during the games. Hotel prices triple, roads close, The city becomes hostile to casual visitors. The net tourism effect in the year of the Games is often negative. Let us look at the evidence. Athens, 2004. Greece spent approximately 11 billion euros to host the Summer Olympics. The world watched. The Games happened. And then the tourists went home. Today, the Athens Olympic complex sits largely derelict. The softball stadium is overgrown with weeds. The beach volleyball venue rusted out within a decade. A 2014 investigation found that out of the 22 Olympic venues built for Athens, 21 had been abandoned or were severely underused. Greece was already moving toward the sovereign debt crisis that would detonate in 2009. The Olympics did not cause that crisis, but it accelerated the debt by billions of euros. Or take Rio de Janeiro, 2016. Brazil spent an estimated $13.1 billion on the Games. The IOC declared it a success. By 2017, 1 year later, multiple Olympic venues had been stripped of equipment, vandalized, or repurposed. The Maracanazinho Velodrome was used as a police equipment storage facility. The Olympic Aquatics Center was drained. Parts of the Athletes' Village were converted into public housing. And Rio's state government had declared a financial emergency even before the closing ceremony. The pattern is always the same. Build big, host the party, watch it Arat. And then there is Montreal, still the most sobering example of all. A city that finished paying its Olympic debt in 2006, 30 years after the Games ended. If you were born the year the torch was lit and you paid taxes in Montreal your entire working life, you were still paying for a 2-week athletic event well into middle age. But here is the layer almost nobody talks about. Once this pattern of financial destruction became undeniable, did the IOC reform the model? Of course not. They rebranded it. In 2014, the IOC launched Agenda 2020, a reform package promising cheaper, more sustainable games. The language was warmer. The structure was identical. The host city still carries all the costs. The IOC still keeps the broadcast revenue. Nothing in the core financial model changed. They just added sustainability language to the press release. And it is getting harder to hide. The IOC was forced to award the 2032 Brisbane Games in 2021, 11 years early, because so few cities were willing to bid. Not enough governments wanted to sign the contract. Brisbane had not yet built a single venue when the cost estimates were already ballooning past the original projections. The Australian Senate held hearings questioning whether the Games would cost $7 billion or $37 billion. Nobody had a confident answer. Meanwhile, the IOC awarded both the 2030 and the 2034 Winter Games to Salt Lake City in a single announcement in 2023. Again, the line of willing host cities had gotten very short. So where does that leave the cities with the courage to say no? In 2015, Hamburg held a public referendum on hosting the 2024 Summer Olympics. 52% of residents voted against it. The bid was dropped. Hamburg paid nothing. Paris eventually hosted the 2024 Games with a reported budget of 9 billion euros. Boston was selected as the U.S. candidate city for the 2024 bid before public opposition erupted over cost guarantees. The United States Olympic Committee pulled the bid in 2015. Boston dodged what could have been a multi-billion-dollar obligation. Budapest withdrew its 2024 bid after nearly 250,000 residents signed a petition demanding a referendum. The city walked away clean. Those three cities are not cautionary tales. They are case studies in what it looks like when citizens actually read the contract. Here's what you can do about this. Number 1, demand referendum rights before any Olympic bid is formalized. The single most effective tool citizens have is a binding vote. Hamburg used it. Budapest used it. When voters get to read the numbers, the hosting fees, the budget history, the IOC contract terms, they almost always say no. If your city starts talking about an Olympic bid, the first question is, will residents get a vote? Number 2, treat the economic impact study like a marketing brochure, because that is what it is. Every Olympic bid comes with a commissioned report projecting billions in tourism revenue, job creation, and GDP growth. The Oxford research found the average cost overrun for the Summer Olympics is 172% in real terms, and that is before security and operational spending. When a politician cites an economic multiplier, ask who paid for the study. Number 3, follow the IOC balance sheet, not the host city's press release. The IOC is a nonprofit, but its executives are compensated like executives. IOC President Thomas Bach received an allowance and expenses running into the millions. The organization holds over $4 billion in reserves. The host city holds the debt. That is the actual deal. Number 4, share this. The reason this cycle continues is that most people watch the opening ceremony and assume somebody ran the numbers. Somebody did. Those numbers just were not for the benefit of the city. The Olympics is not a sporting event with a financial problem. It is a financial extraction with a sporting event attached. The stadiums in Athens were not accidents. The rust in Rio was not bad luck. Montreal's 30-year debt was not a miscalculation. It was the model working exactly as designed for the people who designed it. The IOC torch burns brightly for 2 weeks. The bill burns for 30 years. But now you know how the game is played. If this kind of content pulls back curtains you didn't know were there, like and subscribe for more videos.